morning, Acadiana. It's Wednesday, February 24th, 2021, and you're listening to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. Their team of journalists print the stories important to our community and state, and we are happy to read you some of those stories. You can hear Local News Live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on AOC 1, the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube, and on Cypress Street Radio at aocinc.org/CS Radio. You can find the print versions of these stories and more at theadvocate.com. We couldn't bring you this community service without the generosity of our volunteer newsreaders. Today, we're joined by Daniel Rayburn. Welcome to Local News Live, Daniel.
Yep. Glad to be here.
Thanks for reading. I'm going to go listen on Cypress Street.
Thank you. Good morning, Acadia. It is, as always, my pleasure to be here with you today, bringing you the news. We have got quite a few headlines to look at today, so we're going to dive right in. We'll start in the Acadiana area, as we typically do. Looking at our first headline, it reads, "Schools work to get staff vaccinated. Lafayette official says more than half of employees interested." And this is written by Katie Gagliano. Coronavirus vaccination appointments opened to Louisiana K-12 educators and school support staff on Monday, and public and private school leaders in Lafayette are working to help interested educators get access to doses. Governor John Bell Edwards announced Thursday that teachers and support staff at K-12 schools and daycares would be eligible for COVID-19 vaccines, along with pregnant women, non-emergency medical transportation workers, and people ages 55 to 64 with certain health conditions. Roughly 1.6 million people, about one-third of the state's population, are now eligible to be vaccinated against the virus. Allison Dickerson, spokesperson for the Lafayette Parish School System, said 2,435 employees of the district's roughly 4,200-person staff indicated interest in receiving a COVID-19 vaccine in a January survey. That's about 57% of staff. Some of those employees, such as central office employees working in the finance and payroll departments, are not eligible because they do not work at a school site or visit school sites routinely, she said. Quote, "Based on the number of campuses that we have in our school system and the one district office, it's the vast majority of our employees who are eligible for the vaccine," Dickerson said. Dickerson said the district is not requiring employees to receive the vaccine, leaving the matter to personal choice, but it is encouraging employees to consider vaccination. She said she plans to get vaccinated herself. Vaccines are another step towards getting students safely back to face-to-face classes on a consistent, full-time basis, she said. Quote, "Overwhelmingly, I think it will provide a sense of relief for people and ease their concerns if they know a certain percentage of the staff population is vaccinated. I'm glad that we have these high numbers of employees indicating interest. Some districts don't have the response rate that we have," Dickerson said. "I think it's very promising that we have people interested in getting the vaccine, and to me, that's going to put us on track to resume our everyday education a little quicker than most." Louisiana Superintendent of Education Cade Brumley said conversations with school leaders suggested, quote, "somewhere around half of the employees throughout the state have indicated an interest in receiving the vaccine." Jeff Plunk, head of school at Ascension Episcopal School, said roughly 80% of the school's 150 faculty and staff members indicated interest in getting the vaccine in an email survey this weekend. Those employees are spread out across the school's 3 campuses in Lafayette and Youngsville. Plunk said some employees included in the 20% who were uninterested already received the vaccine, either because of their age or other health conditions, while others were interested but hesitant and wanted to wait. Plunk said he's already made an appointment Saturday to get his first dose. Ascension Episcopal isn't requiring employees to receive a COVID-19 vaccination, but it is encouraged, he said. Quote, "I had already decided I was going to, but I felt like it was the right thing to do being in a school," Plunk said. "We bring a large group of people together every day. That's just the way schools run. And I think it's the responsible thing to do. I decided I would kind of lead the charge and be one of the first from Ascension to take the shot." He said many interested staff members already have their first vaccine doses scheduled through a vaccine clinic Our Lady of Lourdes Regional Medical Center is hosting Saturday. Plunk said for staff who cannot attend vaccine appointments on their off hours, the appointment will be covered with substitutes and other staff like any doctor's appointment would. Dickerson said the school system is taking the same approach. Lafayette School Parish System employees must bring their school or district employee ID badge or a pay stub from the district to their appointment as proof of employment, according to a letter from Superintendent Irma Trosclair to staff. The letter also included a link to the Acadiana Planning Commission's landing page for COVID-19 vaccination providers in the region to give employees direction. Dickerson said district employees are limited to scheduling vaccination appointments at qualified pharmacies and clinics because of vaccine supply shortage. The school system was exploring hosting vaccination clinics at school sites with area medical partners to improve efficiency, reduce the number of employees out during the workday, and ease the strain on employees attempting to schedule their own appointments. But the district was told that wouldn't be possible with the region's vaccine supply. The district hosts similar programs on school campuses for annual flu shots. Quote, "That was the ideal solution, but we found out that's just not a viable solution right now," Dickerson said. Lafayette Parish Association of Educators President Julia Reed said she's hopeful on-campus vaccinations will be possible in the future to accelerate access to educators. Regardless how the vaccine doses are administered, Reed said, feedback from teachers about the vaccine expansion has been positive. Many union members have expressed relief to have the opportunity, and Reed said she plans to get vaccinated as well. Reed said she's pleased the vaccination expansion includes support staff and all employees frequenting campuses. Everyone, from janitors to cafeteria workers, play a key role keeping schools operational and need to be protected, she said. Quote, "Teachers are the visible part of the school. We're the people that you interact with most. But other staff are important to keeping the school running," Reed said. "We also want to provide a wraparound safety net around our kids, since they're not eligible yet to get vaccinated." The union leader said the vaccine expansion is not a silver bullet for easing concerns about the full-time return to school. All interested Lafayette Parish students are expected to phase back into full-time face-to-face learning by March 1st, because both available vaccines take roughly 1 month for full administration. But it is an important step, she added. Once administered, the vaccine should hopefully provide some comfort to educators that they have an added defense to protect themselves, their students, and their families, Reed said. And now, we will take a short break from the headlines for this PSA. Virtual visit with Lafayette Reads Together author Habim Girma. Join 2021's Lafayette Reads Together author Habim Girma for a virtual visit on Thursday, February 25th at 6:15 p.m. on Facebook Live. Girma is a disability rights lawyer, author, and speaker. She's been listed on Forbes 30 Under 30 list, received the 2018 Helen Keller Achievement Award, and was named a White House Champion of Change by former President Barack Obama. The author visit will take place on the Lafayette Public Library's Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Lafayette Public Library, and will include an ASL interpreter. The program begins at 6:15 p.m. Habib's virtual presentation begins at 6:45. Free copies of Habib, the Deaf-Blind Woman Who Conquered Harvard Law, are available at all library locations while supplies last. Lafayette Reads Together is a community-wide reading program that aims to get the community reading, sharing, and discussing the same book. The program is in its 7th year and takes place through March 14th. Visit Lafayette Reads Together at LafayettePublicLibrary.org/LRT to learn more. Lafayette Reads Together is sponsored by the Lafayette Public Library Foundation. Community partners include the Lafayette Parish School System, Lafayette Consolidated Government, Acadiana Center for the Arts, Affiliated Blind of Louisiana, Families Helping Families, United Way of Acadiana, LUS Fiber, Lafayette Utility System, AOC Community Media, Adis NOLA, Basin Arts, the Edith Garland Dupree Library, the Hilliard Art Museum, and South Louisiana Community College. And with that, we will now return to our Acadiana area headlines with this. Library Board names Interim Director. And this is written by Claire Taylor. The Lafayette Public Library Board on Monday appointed an interim library director to serve 6 months until a permanent director is hired. Danny Gillane, a librarian with 13 years at the parish library, was selected by the board over the only other applicant, Larry Angel, library operations manager, who served as provisional director 18 days after the sudden retirement on January 29th of library director Teresa Elberson. Gillane, of New Orleans, has been a librarian more than 30 years and is state certified. He served under the previous 2 library directors and said he is interested in applying for the permanent job. Elberson, the director since July of 2016, retired 4 days after the library board rejected a Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities grant for a book discussion on voting rights. Some board members said the moderators were too left-leaning, and Elberson did not find a moderator to represent the conservative side of modern voting rights issues after requested to do so. Gillane and the permanent library director will be tasked with working with the board to cut the budget as the library system's financial situation decays. The library system started 2018 with a $40 million savings. A series of events, from rejection of a property tax renewal to stripping $8 million from the savings to spend on drainage, and a failure to roll millages forward when property values dropped, dwindled that savings down to $7 million. Moments after being named interim director Monday, Gillane asked the board for time to develop a plan to address the financial situation. There has been discussion of a hiring freeze and employee furloughs to cut expenses, Gillane said. And if the board is willing, it could dip into the library's savings. One of the 2 remaining property taxes that fund the library system is up for renewal in the next year and may be on the November 13th ballot. Andrew Duyon, a former 11-year board member and its immediate past president, advised the board to get past distractions, such as the voting rights controversy, and focus on library funding. He said the library's problems began in spring 2018 when voters rejected the millage renewal, not in fall 2018, when controversies exploded over a proposed drag queen storytime event. Duyon advised the board to support the millage renewal November 13th and develop relationship with council members who decide whether to roll forward millages. Jean Menard, a library supporter who lives outside Lafayette Parish, said she's concerned that several of the new library board members, quote, actively fought property tax renewals in the past when they weren't yet on the board, and openly disagreed with the library's purpose and programs. The 3 library property taxes were consistently renewed, she said, until 2018, quote, when a political operative from Brobridge started spreading disinformation, she said. Library supporter Lynette Maja asked board members to state publicly if they'll support the upcoming property tax renewal. Doug Palumbo, Stephanie Armbruster, Landon Boudreau, Hilda Edmond, James Thomas, and Joan Wingate said they support the renewal. Robert Judge, who was attending his first meeting since being appointed to the board on February 9th, refused to answer, saying he has not reviewed the library's financial information and it would be irresponsible to give, quote, an uneducated, shot-in-the-dark answer. Menard asked board members if they opposed the defeated 2018 library tax renewal. A vocal opponent in 2018 of the Drag Queen Storytime event, Judge declined to say Monday. Armbruster, who also opposed Drag Queen Storytime in 2018, was unclear during the meeting on whether she opposed the tax renewal that year. She said afterwards she opposed the 2018 renewal. What changed, Armbruster said, was that she sees the financial numbers for herself. In 2018, she said she had questions about the construction on so many libraries and whether there was money to staff and operate them. The library board, Armbruster said, has to explain to voters the needs of the library and advocate for the November millage renewal. We will move from the Acadiana region and broaden our scope a bit to stories from across the state of Louisiana. And those begin with this headline. Woman appeals dismissal of lawsuit against district attorney. West Feliciana official criticized overhandling of rape case. A lawyer for a Baton Rouge woman who claims she was sexually assaulted by a Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola deputy warden several times in 2016 is asking an appellate court to revive her lawsuit against a local prosecutor for allegedly failing to adequately pursue rape charges. A 3-judge panel of the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals earlier this month dismissed Priscilla Lafabeur's lawsuit against 20th Judicial District Attorney Sam D. Aquila, despite calling the allegations, quote, sickening, and accusing D. Aquila of possibly harming the public's perception of the legal system. Lafabeur's attorney, Jack Rutherford, filed a petition Monday asking the full Fifth Circuit to rehear the case. Quote, it is difficult to imagine a more appalling crime, one mixing abuse of state power with abuse of a woman's body outside of a war zone, Rutherford wrote. De Aquila was said he cannot comment on the ongoing litigation. The Fifth Circuit panel ruled on February 9th that although De Aquila declined to adequately help Lafabeur, it had no authority to force him or any district attorney to investigate or prosecute someone, and as a result, had to end her lawsuit. Rutherford warned that the panel's decision, if allowed to stand, would have far-reaching consequences. Quote, the effect of the panel's drastic holding would also eliminate the entire movement towards crime victims' rights, he said. Rutherford alleged that De Aquila's custom and practice of refusing to properly investigate and prosecute sexual assault crimes against women because of gender-based stereotypes merely emboldened then Angola Assistant Warden Barrett Boker to rape Lafabeur at his home on the prison grounds. Quote, this all happened because that officer knew he could get away with it. And so far, he has, Rutherford wrote. Lafabeur had sought refuge at Boker's home after the 2016 flood forced her from her Baton Rouge home, the attorney said. Lafabeur is a cousin of Boker's wife and children. A grand jury looked at evidence in 2017, but De Aquila couldn't give the jurors access to a, quote, rape kit or report compiled by a hospital nurse. De Aquila has said that the grand jury didn't need to examine the results of Lafabeur's sexual assault forensic examination because both the victim and the perpetrator said sexual intercourse had occurred. He said the pertinent question in the case was consent, which could not be determined by the rape kit evidence. Boker and Lafayette each testified before the grand jury, and the lawsuit says Boker is the only one who claimed Lafayette consented. Quote, this was not a consensual encounter, Rutherford reiterated in the Fifth Circuit rehearing petition. Circuit Judge James Ho wrote on February 9 that if Lafayette's account is correct, quote, then the system failed her, badly. For surely she expected to have the support of her state's elected and appointed prosecutors, investigators, and other officials in her pursuit of justice. Lafayette's lawsuit, filed in late 2017, alleges that neither Diakia or anyone from his office ever met or spoke with her about the rape, and that the district attorney told reporters that he was, quote, uncomfortable speaking with her. Boker's attorney, Cy Diakia, a distant relative of the district attorney, has said previously that Boker insists that the sex was consensual, and he has passed a privately administered polygraph examination on that point. Lafayette has claims pending against Boker in federal district court. The advocate typically does not name people who report they are victims of sexual assault, but Lafayette has said she wants her name to be used. Boker has been placed on administrative leave following the rape allegation, but later returned to work at the prison. He was fired last year after spraying an inmate with a fire extinguisher. He is facing felony criminal charges stemming from that incident. Next headline, which reads, One lucky crawfish. Crustacean from Kaplan escapes the fate of a backyard boil. Lafayette the crawfish, named after Chef John Folsey's Lafayette's Landing restaurant, becomes the fifth crustacean to receive a pardon from Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. The event was held at the Chef John Folsey Culinary Institute on the campus of Nicholls State University in Thibodaux. Started by Nungesser in 2017 and held on the first Tuesday following Mardi Gras, the pardoning celebrates crawfish season in Louisiana and across the Gulf South. Quote, here in Louisiana, we are the largest domestic provider of crawfish, producing about 150 million pounds a year. It's a delicacy in our state, and peak season runs through Easter, Nungesser said. So what better way to celebrate our culture and heritage than to grant Lafayette his freedom before he ended up on a tray in a restaurant or a backyard boil? In true Louisiana fashion, the event was a party complete with music, food, family, friends, and others, Nungesser said. Quote, no matter where you go in Louisiana, you can find something that will feed your soul, from our culture and arts to our cuisine and history. The lucky crustacean is named Lafayette in honor of Lafayette's Landing restaurant, Chef John Folsey's first restaurant in Louisiana. Opened in 1978 at Via Plantation in Donaldsonville, a fire in October 1998 destroyed the restaurant. Lafayette's Landing later reopened at Bittersweet Plantation, Folsey's home for 20 years. In keeping with tradition, Barry Toops, owner of Crawfish Haven in Kaplan, caught and selected the guest of honor for his reprieve. Lafayette was then transported to the Nicholls State University campus, where he was the king of his own parade, through the Culinary Institute to his regal habitat. Nungesser then bestowed the official pardon upon Lafayette, delivering an official proclamation to the university and the institute to mark the event. Following his pardoning, the Louisiana Office of State Parks transported Lafayette to Bayou Signet State Park in West Wego, where he will live out the rest of his days burrowing in the mud, swimming in the bayou, and making the state park his new home. With that, we will now take another step away from the headlines to bring you our Today in History, famous birthdays, and the daily horoscope. We'll begin with Today in History, which is brought to us by the Associated Press. Today is Wednesday, February 24th, the 55th day of 2021. There are 310 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history is, on February 24th, 1868, the U.S. House of Representatives impeached President Andrew Johnson by a vote of 126 to 47, following his attempted dismissal of Secretary of War Edwin M. Stanton. Johnson was later acquitted by the Senate. On this date, in 1803, in its Marbury v. Madison decision, the Supreme Court established judicial review of the constitutionality of statutes. In 1815, American engineer and inventor Robert Fulton, credited with building the first successful commercial steamboat, died in New York at age 49. In 1942, the SS Struma, a charter ship attempting to carry nearly 800 Jewish refugees from Romania to British-mandated Palestine, was torpedoed by a Soviet Marine in the Black Sea. All but one of the refugees perished. In 1961, the Federal Communications Commission authorized the nation's first full-scale trial of pay television in Hartford, Connecticut. In 1981, a jury in White Plains, New York, found John Harris guilty of second-degree murder in the fatal shooting of Scarsdale Diet author Dr. Herman Tranauer. He was later sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. Harris was granted clemency by New York Governor Mario Cuomo in December of 1992. In 1988, in a ruling that expanded legal protections for parody and satire, the Supreme Court unanimously overturned a $150,000 award to the Reverend Jerry Falwell that he had won against Hustler magazine and its publisher, Larry Flint. In 1996, Cuba downed two small American planes operated by the group Brothers to the Rescue that it claimed were violating Cuban airspace. All 4 pilots were killed. In 2008, Cuba's parliament ruled Raul Castro president, ending nearly 50 years of rule by his brother Fidel. In 2015, the Justice Department announced that George Zimmerman, the former neighborhood watch volunteer who fatally shot Trayvon Martin in a 2012 confrontation, would not face federal charges. 10 years ago today, Discovery, the world's most traveled spaceship, thundered into orbit for the final time, heading towards the International Space Station on a journey marking the beginning of the end of the shuttle era. 5 years ago today, President Barack Obama nominated Carla Hayden, longtime head of Baltimore's library system, to be the 14th Librarian of Congress. Hayden became the first woman and the first African American to hold the position. And 1 year ago today, the White House sent lawmakers a $2.5 billion plan to respond to the coronavirus. It was immediately slammed by Democrats as insufficient. Wall Street endured its worst session in 2 years, with the Dow Industrial slumping more than 1,000 points on fear that the viral outbreak would weaken the world economy. Now we move to today's famous birthdays. We'll start with actor-singer Dominique Chasnis is 90 years old today. Opera singer-director Renita Scotto is 87. Singer Joni Summers is 80 today. Actor Jenny O'Hare has turned 79. Former Senator Joseph Lieberman, an independent of Connecticut, has also turned 79 today. Actor Barry Bostwick is 76. Actor Edward James Olmos has turned 74. Rock singer-musician George Thorogood is 71 today. Actor Deborah Jo Rump is 70. Actor Helen Shaver is also 70. Baseball Hall of Famer Eddie Murray has turned 65 today. Country singer Sammy Kershaw is 63. Actor Mark Moses is also 63 today. Actor Emilio Rivera has turned 60. Singer Michelle Schacht is 59. Movie director Tom Field has turned 57. Actor Billy Zane is 55. Jazz musician Jimmy Green has turned 46. And finally, former boxer Floyd Mayweather Jr. is 44 today. That will now bring us to our daily horoscope. We will begin with Pisces, which is birth dates of February 20th to March 20th. Zero in on what you want to accomplish and direct your energy accordingly. What you achieve today can change the way you work and live moving forward. Don't let anger set in. Action is required. For Aries, which is birth dates of March 21st to April 19th. Find your balance. Embrace discipline and go after your dreams. Think innovatively. Use your knowledge and skills to shake things up. Personal gain looks promising. Romance and self-improvement are favored. To Taurus, which is birth dates of April 20th to May 20th. Take your time. Be cautious and make necessary changes. Let experience, not your emotions, dictate how you progress. Look for original ways to solve old problems. For Gemini, which is birth dates of March 21st to May 21st to June 20th. Say what's on your mind and clear up any misunderstandings that may stand in your way. Knowledge is powerful and will lead to opportunity and new beginnings. Be honest and straightforward. For Cancer, which is birth dates of June 21st to July 22nd. Look for a unique way to use your knowledge and skills. Being open to diverse options regarding your profession or finances will lead to positive results. For Leo, which is July 23rd to August 22nd birth dates, you'll face decisions you aren't ready to make. Refuse to let anyone pressure you into something prematurely. Focus on meaningful relationships and keeping the peace. For Virgo, which is birth dates of August 23rd to September 22nd. Consider what makes you happy, then head in that direction. How you live, what you learn, and the people you associate with will determine what you get out of life. For Libra, which is September 23rd to October 23rd birth dates. Address money matters before it's too late. Look at the changes going on around you and make adjustments that ensure security and stability. Be open about your feelings and plans. For Scorpio, which is birth dates of October 24th to November 22nd. Evaluate what you are up against. Be secret regarding your intentions and use your intuition to make the most out of whatever comes your way. For Sagittarius, which is birth dates of November 23rd to December 21st. An unwanted change will turn out well. Time heals all wounds, and a demonstrative approach to life will pay off in the end. Love is on the rise. Be bold and courageous. For Capricorn, which is birth dates of December 22nd to January 19th, take advantage of an opportunity that allows you to put your long-term plans into motion. Don't worry about what others do or say. Follow the path that leads to happiness and peace of mind. And finally, Aquarius, which is birth dates of January 20th to February 19th. Don't get angry. Get moving. Be fair, direct, and truthful, but refuse to let your emotions take charge and lead to something you regret. Patience will help resolve issues. And now, we will return to our state headlines with this. Learning gaps, top priority of school leaders. Superintendents planning for a $1 billion federal aid. And this is written by Will Sintel. Addressing student learning loss amid the coronavirus pandemic will be one of superintendents' priorities, as they decide how to spend a whopping $1 billion in new federal assistance. The money, which was approved by Congress in December, includes $77 million for the Jefferson Parish School District, $64 million for East Baton Rouge Parish School District, and $73 million for public schools in Lafayette. The money comes on top of $287 million schools got last year in the early stages of the pandemic to help offset expenses caused by the virus. School leaders for months have voiced concern about the learning loss some students will suffer because of the disruption in classes, especially for those who were struggling academically before the pandemic. In-person classes ended 9 weeks ahead of schedule in 2020, forcing educators to rely on virtual classes that are uneven at best. About 1/3 of Louisiana's roughly 700,000 public school students will rely on a combination of virtual and in-person instruction or distance learning only. Officials of the Jefferson Parish School District, the largest in the state, said addressing learning loss since the offset of the pandemic 11 months ago will be a focus of its share of the aid. Other areas will include social and emotional support for students, better reading skills for children from pre-kindergarten through 3rd grade, and professional development for teachers. The East Baton Rouge School District, the second largest in the state, plans to expand its early childhood education capacity, student academic assessments, computers, and connectivity, among other items, according to Superintendent Cito Narcisse. The push to offer student assistance dovetailed with a $1 million state plan to help districts provide tutoring to math and English language arts. Quote, "Unfinished learning is nothing new to educators, but the pandemic has exacerbated the need to provide our children with extra help," State Superintendent of Education Cade Brumley said. The spending plans also reflect the view that virtual learning in some fashion will be employed for the foreseeable future. The Lafayette Parish School System plans to use its federal dollars for academic recovery, student services, and personal protective equipment. Wes Watts, president of the Louisiana Association of School Superintendents and leader of the West Baton Rouge Parish School System, said ensuring students are on grade level will be the priority for the $3.2 million his district is set to get. Quote, "That will include providing tutoring, enrichment, and having those options available this summer also," Watts said in an email. Scott Delvenier, superintendent of the top-rated Zachary School District, said that the $2.6 million his district is slated to receive will help pay for the staff needed to address learning gaps students have experienced in the past 11 months, possibly with summer school. The big question is, quote, the big question is a lot of kids may want to sign up, but you also have to have enough educators to be in the classroom, he said. In the first round of federal aid, the St. Bernard Parish School District focused on making sure students get Chromebooks and internet access, which has been a statewide problem. The district has 7,840 students, with 80% living in economically disadvantaged homes. Superintendent Doris Vitoyer said school officials are regularly assessing students to see who would benefit for summer school in reading and other basic skills. Quote, "We are going to have an extensive summer program," she said, while other members of the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education agreed. The district is getting $9.5 million. Aside from learning loss, the Livingston Parish School District plans to use its federal dollars to ensure students are connected to classrooms and have technology devices. The district is scheduled to get $15.5 million. The Ascension Parish School System is targeting increased costs of instruction and the purchase of technology with its $11.8 million allotment. Hollis Milton, superintendent of the West Feliciana Parish School District, said officials there will target computers and other instructional resources with the federal aid. It's set to get $1.1 million. Others include Iberville Parish getting $6.2 million, Orleans receiving $28.1 million, Plaquemines Parish receiving $2.6 million, St. Charles Parish receiving $5.2 million, St. John the Baptist Parish receiving $7.5 million, and St. Tammany Parish receiving $28.5 million. Districts will receive the federal aid in 2 equal payments. The money will be available for spending in June and January. The federal allocation totals $1.1 billion, with $100 million left to the discretion of the State Department of Education. And now, on to our next headline, which reads, quote, "We're asking a lot of them. Pharmacies are crucial to the state's vaccination plan, but they're stretched thin." And this is written by Emily Woodruff. It was 3 p.m. on Thursday in early February, and pharmacy owner Lisa Carr was getting stressed. Governor John Bel Edwards had just lowered the coronavirus vaccine eligibility to 65. At Carr Drugs, a New Orleans pharmacy situated between a coffee house and an auto parts store on the west bank of the Mississippi River in Algiers, all 5 phone lines were ringing nonstop. Between vaccine appointments, Carr turned to her husband, pharmacist Randy Carr. She wasn't expecting the governor's announcement that day. Pharmacies found out at the same time as everyone else, and she needed to plan to handle the calls. Quote, "Do I need to call the sisters?" she asked, alarm creeping into her voice. Let's just wait and see what happened," her husband responded. It was time for another scramble at Carr Drugs, one of Louisiana's independent pharmacies trying to handle the, quote, "last mile" of a complex operation to vaccinate the state's residents and help end the pandemic. In January, when Carr Drugs first appeared on the Louisiana Department of Health website as one of the 100 initial providers of the vaccine, the call volume crashed the pharmacy's phone lines, then its website. Lisa Carr summoned her family to help. 3 sisters staffed the phones, along with Carr's friend Anna Boyer, an unofficial sister often mistaken for the real thing, and Boyer's husband, Rich. Quote, "She's got a lot of sisters," Randy Carr said. In the past month, they've compiled a wait list of more than 1,800 people. And that's just what they've been able to type up. There are handwritten pages to add, 20 pages with 28 rows on each. Since getting its first vaccine shipment, Carr Drugs has administered 440 doses and is almost through the second ones. Each week, the pharmacy receives a shipment of 10 vials of the Moderna vaccine containing 100 doses. But Randy Carr has been able to get 1 or 2 extra out of each vial. He gives 20 to 33 shots per day. Quote, "We're asking a lot of them." Louisiana has leaned heavily on pharmacies during the initial stages of the vaccine rollout, choosing to prioritize vaccinations in familiar places rather than holding big events at stadiums or in parking lots. About 1 in 3 of Louisiana's 4.6 million residents now qualifies for the vaccine after Edwards on Thursday added to the list school teachers, daycare workers, pregnant people, and people older than 55 with certain conditions. There's no centralized sign-up. To get a vaccine, people must call around to hospitals and pharmacies for an appointment. The callers are often frustrated. Tim Stranton, a professor of pharmacy practice and pharmaceutical studies at the University of Minnesota Duluth, said without a big federal or state sign-up, the process was bound to be chaotic. Quote, "It's such a mishmash," said Stranton, who is licensed in 4 states and studied pharmacy administration and rural pharmacies. The infrastructure should have been prepared so we could get vaccines. They could just roll them out. None of that happened. Now we're trying to play catch-up. Louisiana has been unique in promoting community pharmacies, said Monique Whitney, Executive Director of Pharmacists United for Truth and Transparency, a national organization that advocates for independent pharmacies. Quote, "It's one of the few states that understands how important pharmacies are," Whitney said. West Virginia got the credit, she said, referring to news coverage praising the small state's efficiency. But Louisiana started this. In a survey collected 3 weeks into the rollout, independent drugstores had already delivered 28,000 doses, according to the Louisiana Independent Pharmacy Association. By this week, it will be 100,000. Still, small pharmacies are strapped for staff to do a job on which they barely break even. They've had to be creative. The president of the Independent Pharmacy Association, Randall Johnson, said in Opelousas, 5 small drugstores combine their staff and supply to hold weekend vaccination events at the local Roman Catholic Church. They were able to give 500 shots per day over 2 weekends. Dr. Joe Cantor, Assistant Secretary of the Louisiana Office of Public Health, said pharmacies have been a bright spot in the state's vaccine rollout. Independents have wasted just 3 doses of the total 755 expired doses that had to be thrown out in the state. Chain pharmacies have wasted 202. Cantor acknowledged it's a big lift for mom-and-pop stores. As the vaccine supply increases, the pressure on small drugstores will lessen, but he said they will remain critical in reaching their customers, especially in rural areas. Quote, "There's no question we're asking a lot of them," Cantor said. The actual administering of the vaccine itself, that's not what takes the time. The time is with data collection and registration. In the month since the initial onslaught at Carr Drugs, Lisa and Randy Carr have hammered out a system that's like nothing else they've addressed in their lives as small business owners. Names are added to the bottom of their list, a self-made, color-coded spreadsheet, much faster than they can give out vaccines. But the list is also shrinking from the middle as people find a dose elsewhere. That means Lisa Carr can spend 5 hours calling people to fill 40 appointments. Still, the Carrs don't have many complaints about the state's distribution process. Quote, "They're doing a massive vaccine rollout. What do you expect?" "They're doing the best they can do," Lisa Carr said. A few days earlier, they had another interruption in the daily routine. The Carrs attended the funeral of a friend who died with the coronavirus. In mid-January, it was someone closer. Lisa Carr's brother-in-law, the person who introduced them so many years ago. A former co-owner of Carr Drugs, Mitch Boyder was 63 and healthy as can be. His illness was swift and dizzying for the family. Quote, "We used to joke all the time. It was weird that he owned a pharmacy because he never got sick," Lisa Carr said. "For him to get so sick and go in a month, it's unbelievable. This was the guy who never even had a headache." She doesn't dwell on her loss while she's at the store. She doesn't want to scare customers. The cashiers are bright and sunny. So is she, giving the same peppy speech to each person who walks in and out, making jokes, speaking softly to a nervous customer, picking up the phone, and calling in reinforcements every time the guidelines are expanded. Only when she stops to catch her breath, which isn't often, does she think about how the pandemic has affected her family. Quote, "Every family has a quote COVID story," she said, talking through tears. "If it hasn't hit your family, you are blessed." And now, we will move to our last headline of the day. It comes to us via the world of sports, and it reads, Cajuns softball run rules Eastern Illinois. After slow start, UL's offense comes alive versus Panthers. And this is written by Kevin Foote. Much like over the weekend in Birmingham, Alabama, it took the UL softball team's bats a little while to heat up. But once they did, the Eastern Illinois pitching staff didn't have an answer. The number 8 ranked Ragin' Cajuns scored 6 runs in the third and 3 more in the fourth to cruise to a 9-0 run rule win over the Panthers in UL's home opener Tuesday at Lamson Park. Quote, "It felt really good to get home and be on the field," UL coach Matt Deggs said. "I was tickled with the way our team played. It was kind of a slow developing game. We hit the ball hard in the first inning right at them, and they made some good plays. Once we finally got going, I thought we hit the ball well." The Cajuns improved to 5-0 and will host McNeese State at 6 p.m. Wednesday before taking on LSU at 6 p.m. Thursday at Lamson Park. The Cajuns only sent 7 batters to the plate on Eastern Illinois starter Jade Montgomery over the first 2 innings. Jade Gutierrez was the only one not retired, reaching on an error with 2 outs in the first. Then came the third inning when UL exploded for 6 runs on 8 hits and got 3 errors to help out. Bailey Curry singled to left and scored on Caitlin Alderich's RBI single to get things going. 2 batters later, Sierra Bryan smashed a 2-run home run to right center field. Melissa Mayo later joined the parade with an RBI single ahead of Justice Mills' 2-run base hit. Bryan was added again in the fourth with her second home run of the game, a 1-out solo shot to right center field. 2 batters later, Julia Rawls came off the bench to hit a 2-run homer over the bleachers in right to account for the 9-0 final decision. Casey Dixon was the beneficiary of all the run support, getting the win after allowing no runs on 3 hits, no walks, and 1 strikeout to improve to 1-0 on the season. Vanessa Foreman pitched the 5th to finish out the game, hitting 1 batter. The highlight of the game for UL's dugout was ace pitcher Summer Ellison getting a chance to pitch hit. Quote, "This will be her only time," Glasgow said. "She wanted to bat 1 time this year. I was sitting in my office this morning and thought about it. Tara won't beam her if we put her out there. I'd be worried about that under a lot of situations. We got that out of the way for now." Tara is Eastern Illinois' head coach and Glasgow's daughter, Tara Archibald. Quote, "I wish her kids could have played in front of 2,500 people here," Glasgow said. "It would have been very inspiring to them." Still, Archibald enjoyed the trip. Quote, "It's just cool to be in Lamson Park," Archibald said. "It's neat. I usually don't get to come because I'm working. It was neat to get to be in this environment and see Dad with his team and get to see all the fans who I know have meant so much to our family." With that, before we close today's program, we will take a look at the funerals today in the Acadiana area. We begin with Jesse Constantine Sr., with service at Fountain Memorial Funeral Home in Lafayette at 11 a.m. Next is Loretta Giard, with services at David's Funeral Home of New Iberia, located at 1101 Trotter Street in New Iberia at 11 a.m. We have Gussie Landry, with services at Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church, located at 700 South Broadway in Erath at 3 p.m. today. And our final is Lorraine Regan, with services at St. Michael's Church in Egan at 2 p.m. With that, This has been Local News Live for February 24th, 2021. And I have been your reader, Daniel Rayburn. Please join us at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, or the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com and find out how to volunteer and more at aocinc.org. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope that you will join us again tomorrow. Have a great day, Acadiana.